Hey guys, sorry it's been a little bit. Uh, Last time we talked, we were talking. I think it was for the gallows, and I kind of just disappeared, and I'm kind of sorry. Um, a little behind the scenes. We've been really busy here at Building 12, and being here in college kind of gave me some distractions. But I also just felt kind of, I don't know, just not in a good place mentally. I'm okay, but I was just unmotivated and
Yeah.
just definitely tired. And then I got sick, so kind of I sound a little different or just kind of start sniffling or anything, just kind of getting on the edge on the end of being sick. But I promise I didn't leave you guys. I'm not your dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're not my dad.
Yeah, but while I was away, I've been watching a lot of Netflix, and I've been actually been recently motivated watching a lot of Netflix about like Mike Flanagan and his stuff. So, welcome to Survive the Haunt. My name's Austin, and with me today is Nicole.
Hi,
And
guys.
we're gonna change some things up because I don't always just want to be doing like horror movie reviews where we just talk it through. I just want to talk about the genre in whole, and do some like conversations about directors and just other things that scare us or just things that we like. So, thank you. So, today we're going to be talking about Mike Flanagan. He is probably my favorite director of all time. Uh, he's famous for works such as The Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. He did the movie Oculus, and I really enjoy how he does his character work. He's, for the first time in a long time, showed me that you can make a horror movie that lasts like 10 hours or however long you need to do it, and you can actually tell a good story. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be about like horror. In his movies, which always happen to be horror movies, he's able to like talk about family grief, just trauma in general, and actually like that because he's able to make something in one scene that'll make you cry, and then have that seriously be ended by a jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually really interesting to me, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I haven't. I just recently got into more horror stuff, like in the last year
Well, congratulations.
or so.
Welcome.
So, like, some of these I actually haven't. Most of them I haven't seen. I've heard of him before, but I've never like dived in and looked at the information about him and stuff. But like, I've heard that a lot of these movies were pretty good. Actually, I think I've seen Oculus. That one was
I liked Oculus.
yeah.
Oculus is the what I always remembered is like the mirror movie,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll talk about that after a little bit. I thought it was good. It was a project or a product of its time in like 2016 or whenever it came out.
Yeah. Well, I think it says 2013. But
2013. Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while, but so far I'm gonna say probably his biggest thing's The Haunting at Hill House, right?
Yeah.
I've heard lots of good reviews. I
Yeah, and
haven't
then
myself
with that,
watched it.
which I recommend anybody who hasn't seen it, you should watch it. You can watch it on Netflix. With that, he's been able to make a spin-off show called Haunting of Bly Manor, which is kind of a lot. For the most part, it's a lot of the same cast.
Mm-hmm.
So like how American Horror Story does their stuff of each season is a different thing. I think he's gonna make another haunting of such and such.
Oh yeah, I mean it just had such good reviews.
Yeah, and then like The Haunting of Hill House was based on a book of the same name. I don't remember who it was by, but
Oh.
he's really good at adapting stuff, and we'll talk about that after a little bit too. Okay, so to get started, Mike Flanagan was born in Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he only lived there for a little bit though, but he only lived there like 5 months or whatever. But he definitely uses that as his home of where he says he's from, and just kind of like borderline like gets him in the mood for horror. Just kind of made it feel like that was his born to do. So Mike Flanagan's very famous for his generational trauma and familial trauma type shows, which is like Oculus is a good example where it's able to play with time, but also like show trauma that can happen inside of family and how families affected by spirits and ghosts and just the breakdowns of families and other things. Hill House is all about a family dealing with the fact that they lived in a haunted house that killed their mom,
Mm-hmm.
and like 20 years later killed the sister by suicide, and just kind of dealing with that.
And don't they all go and live there?
They all did live there,
Oh, they don't
but they
anymore.
all of them have trauma from it. Like,
That's what I've seen bits and pieces of it. I know that one of them is a mortician, right?
yeah,
The sister, and she actually goes through her her sister's body, I think.
yeah.
And
When
does the
their
autopsy.
sister dies by suicide, by like it's all about depression, and it plays a lot with their mom died by suicide in the house. That and we learned that it was brought on by a ghost, but they talk a lot about is this a ghost or is this just like family trauma, family hereditary, insanity or just past depression.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. I at that time when it did come out though, like I wasn't like into that kind of stuff, or it freaked me out.
Yeah,
But like now, I think it's I'm curious about it. Like I've always like liked the thought of the paranormal, but it's always terrified me, especially growing up in my religious views. Like, and so, but now I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like I know, well, I'm praying nothing bad happens to me, but I'm like, I can listen to this stuff and watch it without freaking out and
without
getting
fear.
paranoid all the time, and it's nice.
The one thing though about Mike Flanagan films that they don't necessarily scare me or at all or anything, but I think they do something to me more mentally than like a regular cookie cutter scary movie, because with those types of movies, I'm looking for the big jump scare by the monster or just like
Yeah.
things that are unrealistic. Not saying that his stuff isn't unrealistic, but he takes basic premises just as we lived in a haunted house and then shows the outcome of the youngest kid, Luke, is an addict because he was haunted by a ghost when he was a kid, and he's addicted to black tar heroin, everything, and they show that is because of this that happened to him as a kid and their mom dying that put him on a path here. And that really got me and kind of scares me more than basically anything else.
Yeah, it's very mental and emotional, like, and we've all experienced such trauma before ourselves, so it scares us more with how it matches our reality.
Yeah. Something that Mike Flanagan talks about, which is I think is super funny, that kind of got him started on horror and realized that like stuff that would scare him was when he was a little kid. Have you ever heard of a show called Fraggle Rock? So it was
It sounds familiar, but
you can Google it, but it's like a Muppet cartoon type thing where they like go through like the Muppet Show. Um,
yes.
yeah,
But I don't think I watched it
yeah.
very much. as
I didn't watch it
kid.
a lot because it was too old for me.
Oh,
but
1983.
yeah, I knew what it was just kind of by seeing bits and pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an episode of Fraggle Rock. I don't remember what it was called. It's something like The Tunnel, which it scared him as a kid because the character would go into the tunnel and he meets these ghosts in there, and he was like, people forgot that that we existed and we died. Like this isn't a kid's show, and in multiple interviews he'll talk about like how that scared the shit out of him, and I think it's super funny how a little kid and a kid's show can like impact somebody to then go on and later make horror movies and stuff. Because he talked about how he was always the type of kid who was very like scared and was scared of everything. A big fraidy cat. But he talked about
Same.
yeah, I was like that as a kid, where I was like things really scared me and I'd have nightmares. But at some point, just like he did, I got to the point where I was like, well, let's do this. Let's be brave.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that became a fascination because what used to scare me doesn't anymore. And while I was around horror movies, because our mom was always like, we're watching what I want to watch.
Yep.
We will rent a kid's show and a horror movie. And
horror movie first, then the kiddie after.
The kids show after.
That's what I always told. My parents never had horror movies. We had thrillers, but my parents weren't into horror movies, so I didn't grow up around them. So when my friends were like, "Let's watch horror movies," I was like, "No, we need to watch a little kid movie after."
Yeah. Yeah, my mom was always fascinated with it, and she kind of just mutually watching everything. She's still fascinated with it. Watches a lot of horror movies, loves like a haunting, that ghost show that talk about like haunted house and
I
stuff.
Love that show.
Yeah, we watched that a whole bunch. Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures.
Yes.
We watched all those growing up.
Now you're making me want to go watch that.
I know. It's a good binge-worthy stuff.
Uh-huh. Hulu, here I come.
Hulu, here we come. Okay, so he took the idea of the whole going into a tunnel and like dying and disappearing, and ironically, his very first movie that he made that like made it big was called Absentia, and it was basically the same premise of this woman who I remember everything. I've seen it before just because I know that a lot of people are like, oh, watch this movie, so I've seen it. But like this girl's dealing with the death. I think it was a suicide.
You said Absentia?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see.
There's like this tunnel underneath her house that every time she goes under, there's ghosts and spirits in it, it's spooky. And how they made it was actually really cool. They crowdfunded it, where Mike Flanagan, before he made Absentia, worked on like Untold Stories of the ER.
Oh, okay.
Reality TV as an editor. He would edit the film. He's like lead editor for Untold Stories of the ER and other things.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he was in Hollywood, but he wasn't very happy with it. Kind of, we could understand that. If you make it, you're making movies and stuff, but you're not hands-on or anything. You're doing the grunt work, and that stuff can really burn you out. So he had his wife at the time, I think it was his wife or the girlfriend. He was about to become a dad, and he decided that I need to make one movie before I might have to like quit that dream and get a job that'll pay. So he crowdfunded with his friends just to scrape a budget, and they made Absentia with no lighting, all the stuff they owned, no budget, and all of the friends. And it actually premiered at South by Southwest and won awards, and it was bought, and that really made him make it.
Mm-hmm.
But he took that fame, and he had made other short films. One was called Oculus Chapter 3, The Man with a Plan.
Yeah.
And he sold the rights to the Oculus premise to Blumhouse, and they made, from there, his first like Hollywood movie that really made him like big bucks. Hollywood, you've made it. He was able to make Oculus. So Oculus really shows to me his ability as an editor and like a filmmaker of understanding how you have to shoot things in the perspective of the editor, of like how to make the job easier, or how you want it all to go in a timeline, and how you need to make things around that. So in Oculus, I've seen it. I think you've probably seen it if you think back.
It's been a while, but yeah, I've seen Oculus.
Yeah, it takes
the ending's like fucking twists. And
yeah, it's a narcissistic ending where don't really win. Kind of sucks, but
yeah.
But it plays with two timelines which I really like, is they'll show like, so it starts out with the family, they get this mirror, and it turns out the mirror's haunted.
Yeah.
So it affects the parents and the kids, affects all of them, but it plays with the time of how things happened in a weird way that I actually really enjoyed, because you'll have scenes where the kids who grow up into adults are trying to record the mirror to prove that it is haunted so they can clear their father's name for the murder of their mother. But there was cool scenes where like Karen Gillian would walk down the hallway and turn a corner, and then young Karen Gillian would run by, and now we're 15 years in the past.
Yeah.
It would do stuff like that, and it would make it feel like it was seamless, playing with time, and it was really, really good. He'll end up taking that type of stuff into his later work, just like in Haunting Hill House, which I think the Hill House was everything right that he wanted to do, and he learned from the mistakes of his other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
he even did the one with the kid where he like when he dreams they come alive.
Before I Wake.
Yeah.
It was like this, like he would lucid dream and astral project and make like a monster. My favorite thing he did, though, outside of like my favorite movie that he's done besides Dr. Sleep, which is kind of going a little too fast, but is he made what I think was the better of which, but he made the sequel to the movie Ouija, and he made Ouija Origin Evil, which was a prequel, and it was good. Like that, I think that was the first movie I saw of his, besides Oculus that I actually was like, let me see who this director is. To where it was because of that that I was happy to see that he was making like stuff for Netflix and other things. So he has some deals with Netflix. After Oculus came out, he sold the rights to Oculus to Blumhouse, which we've talked about before, and they make a bunch of shit.
Yep.
Always talked about it. He was given the rights to Gerald's Game, which is a Stephen King novel about this woman and her
husband. They go on vacation, right?
Yeah, woman and like her husband go on vacation or something. That they have the husband wants to have sex by like handcuffing her to the bed.
Yeah, they're trying to get freaky.
And he dies. He has a heart attack and dies.
And
she is like, she's stuck on the bed. It plays with her mind. Like she goes crazy, dehydrated, starving, sees ghosts, gets attacked by wild animals. There's this whole trip, which for a long time people said that Gerald's Game was probably the one thing that could never be turned into a movie. And Mike Flanagan wrote a draft of it that Stephen King loved.
Yeah. I heard really good reviews on that.
I like it. It was little. So his thing with movies.
Can't go wrong with Carla. Too.
Yeah.
She's an awesome actor.
Yeah, Spy Kids mom.
Yes. I was just like
Cortez, Jeannie Cortez or whatever her name is. But yeah, the mom, and she plays the mom in The Haunting of Hill House. And she's really good in it. She's works her ass off throughout for him. She's such a good actress.
Yeah.
And he's such a good director. He can make good work. Mm-hmm. So we can talk a little bit more about Haunting Hill House. He's famous for his actors. If you do a movie with him, odds are you're gonna do every movie with him. He's just good director.
Because he knows who will do good.
Mm-hmm.
Who he can rely on.
He brought to me, because I don't know his full filmography, but he brought a dude named Henry Thomas, who you might know as Elliot in E.T., the little kid in E.T. His name is Henry Thomas.
Yeah.
He brought him back to what I would say back into fame, and he's worked with him since I think it was from Gerald's Game or sometime.
Okay, Henry Thomas.
Yeah, he's been with him for a long time. He recently did Midnight Mass, which during my hiatus from the podcast, I binged watched all the Haunting of both Bly Manor and Hill House, Midnight Mass. I watched Oculus. I think I watched every single thing that he made just because it was something I was feeling. I was just kind of feeling not depressed, but just unmotivated. I was having second thoughts about just school was getting stressful.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just decided to watch something. My mom told me I needed to watch Midnight Mass because I hadn't watched it yet. And I turned it on one night, and I finished it that following morning, and I don't think I slept. And that is not a bad thing because it was really, really good.
Is he one of the siblings in Haunting of Hill House?
Henry Thomas. He plays their dad back in the day.
Oh, I guess he is older. I don't know why. I just assumed he was like, they all are older though. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay.
One of the best scenes of like film in current day film that makes him the Mike Flanagan, the king of horror, is probably Haunting Hill House episode 5. That episode, I think it's episode 5 that they have to go to the funeral of the daughter, and that there's a 40 something. I think it's like 30-minute unbroken like set or take that travels in time from scene starts with a very long dialogue scene, which he is phenomenal at. They're at the wake of the daughter. They're arguing. Shit happens. They go back into time to where they're at Hill House. They go back into the regular time. They just play with time for so long. And what I saw is that was all one take. And it is really, really good. But also in that scene that I really liked, so the dad, there's basically every character in Hill House is played by 2 people. There's a younger version and an older person and an older version. In that episode, the father comes to go visit his kids during like the wake, because he hadn't seen all the kids in a long time, because he's estranged, because he's trying to protect the kids from the haunted house, and he believes the way to do that is not to be around them. So they have some resentment for him. They do a good job talking about it. But the camera comes in with the dad. They're talking, and the camera turns in a 360 motion, and we see all of his kids as adults leaning up against the wall, just sitting, and they're all like, he's like talking to them, and the camera goes like in 360, and by the time it gets back around to him, it's the little kids. So
That's
like,
a cool scene.
yeah. So he's seeing, like when he first walks up to see his kids, he's seeing them like the last time he saw them, which was them as little kids, and even to where like he'll go up to go visit the casket to see his daughter, and it's Nell as a little girl, and it breaks his heart because of course it's like a dad seeing his little kids, but then like the camera turns back around and it's the adults again, and it's like that one take. I could just imagine how they would do that if they were probably like they would rotate the camera, everyone would run in, and then they'd run away, and then like when the camera's to the back of them, they'd replace the sets and things.
Was anyone like talking during this?
Yeah,
scene?
it was just a dialogue where they're like talking, or it's like following the camera's following the dad and the son walking up to the casket, and he sees that it's the daughter, and then I'm sure like while that's happening, everyone's like changing, but like there's
Or just moving into a place.
they built that whole set for that show, and the set was actually really cool. There's a tour you can find on it on YouTube, where it's like they walk you through the whole house, which is built in this huge building that you walk in, and it's basically every single location in the movie, except for like there's one place that's outside that they use the house for. But like you walk in, and it's the grand staircase. But if you take a left, you're in like the funeral home of the daughter. In later, I watched that whole video. It's like an hour and a half long. It's really, really cool how they built the set and everything. So another thing that Mike Flanagan recently did that actually cemented himself as what I saw like the king of horror is that he worked with Stephen King to adapt Dr. Sleep, which Dr. Sleep is it's the sequel to The Shining, specifically to like the Stanley Kubrick movie and his book, and I really enjoyed this movie. My brother and I went and watched this movie when it came out. We were going to go see Jojo Rabbit, I think, and they were all sold out, so we went and saw that, and we both walked away enjoying that we saw that instead. There's a really cool story about like how he wrote that. He wrote, directed, and published the movie all before meeting in person with Stephen King. So the very first time he met Stephen King was, here's the movie, I hope you like it, which I couldn't imagine doing. Besides email, talking to him, that'd be crazy.
Oof. Here you go. Poof.
Yeah.
Sweating. You know what? I could do it.
Yeah,
Let's go. Let's go.
I think if I had to adapt a movie like that, even though it was by Stephen King, I think if you just try hard enough had the kahunas to do it, I think anyone can really do it.
And honestly, even if he was an asshole about it and he said he didn't like it, you know, at least I'd know maybe what I needed to do to fix it, you know, to make it, or like just like some pointers, since this guy's obviously.
Yeah, when you're Stephen King, you know, it's definitely constructive criticism whenever somebody, or you get told by Stephen King anything.
That's what I try to take from this industry, honestly, is like
destructive.
Yeah, even if they're complete assholes, I'm like, okay, you know.
Well, yeah, except for like the complete douchebag people in the industry. There are a lot of people that it's like, yeah, you do make a lot of money because you know your shit. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I learned about the industry too, is just working your ass off, and then also being able to take criticism, not crying in the hallway.
Film sets are stressful in a small people sense.
Yeah,
I can't imagine having hundreds. Now I know why, you got the director, but then the director's like...
You have all the PAs, production assistants that are
That's what I'm saying. Like, he probably talks to them. It's like a pyramid. I feel like, you got the director, and then you got all of the producers, and then, and it just kind of, they're in charge of these people, and then they're in charge of this. That's why I'd like to be a producer.
I think for sure, because I want to make movies and everything, but I definitely want to work on a set multiple times. And I'm talking like a real huge set. Is like film is to me like it's the largest transformative media there is. Of you have so many people working for stuff that you're making a movie, but everything back to you have people building the sets, people making the food, you have chauffeur drivers to drive people to the sets.
They create the costumes.
Yeah, it's such a large group of people working together that I, for a long time, always kind of knew about because Hollywood's a big place, but working in it and actually making films and stuff, you really see how many people there are. And being a director, you're in charge of all of that. Of course,
That's a lot of pressure, and I could see why certain directors can become huge, like you said, douchebags. Because, I mean, I can't imagine having all that stress. Even when I do a small short here, it's like...
Yeah, even for, like, a little bit behind the curtain a couple of weeks ago when we were working on, like, the SWAT training videos and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just 4 of us, and there was a lot of stress even with that. It was fun.
And we weren't even, like filming something we wrote. It was just kind of...
Yeah. I know working on Gabe's movie this past summer, that took a long time, and all I had to do was run audio, but, man, that was just a lot of work. And making movies is a lot of work. I know that, like, sometimes I'll explain to my dad what I want to do, and he's like, oh, that's kind of okay. I think a lot of people think that this industry is kind of easy, or it's like,
oh no,
like like a softer job. You're not really working hard. It's not hard work. No, you are working hard. It's like you're going. If you're like working in Hollywood, say we lived here in Kansas, but we were working on a film set in California, is basically the same thing. I'm not saying that we're the same thing because they're definitely work their asses more and they're more important than we are. But it's like taking a tour or like being sent out for the military. You're gone for like 3 months. Every single day you have to do something. You have 3 months to do this. And then you come home for 2 weeks or 2 months and then you're back at it. If you make movies like that, that is what that is. It's not like relaxed and easy where you're like soaking up all the money.
You're literally thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
Because if something goes wrong, it's your ass and you're fired. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of directors that say that making movies, you don't finish a movie, you abandon it, meaning that you get to the point where like I can't work on it anymore.
Yeah.
Where it's like I've done all I can do. I could sit here forever, but it'll never get done. And we know that of making small changes on stuff that we wanted to work on.
Yeah.
How you can all it takes is 1 second, and you're just like, oh fuck, I got to add a whole another hour to this.
My short Dave.
Yeah,
thing
the
that
drunk Dave.
Yeah, that was only almost 2 minutes long, right? Took me maybe an hour. But, like, setting up, editing, and then, filming, all was probably at least a good 5 or 6 hours, and I hated it. And that's 6 hours. That's not even 6 months to a year for actual movies.
Yeah, and I was watching you, even for, like, your set, you had to individually print out photos and then make these little...
There's so much crap frames that goes into it. And that's another thing that makes it more stressful for us, though, is that in Hollywood, each person has their own role they have to do.
You delegate people for the position, which that comes with ease.
But that's also more trust.
Trust that you have to put in people, and, 100%.
So, like, I applaud this guy, Ferguson, because, like, that shit is... Flanagan, my bad. Ferguson, I can't read it. Sorry.
Mike Ferguson. Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah, we're just going to say Mike.
Mike.
But, yeah, he has, I don't know, man, lots of patience.
Yeah, he's definitely built, and it's kind of, I'll say the word algorithm.
Yeah.
You, as a filmmaker, you get to the point where you know how you've done it. He talks about a lot, like, making Oculus for the first time being a Hollywood movie that he knew that this was Hollywood money. To where it's like if I don't get this done, they break my knees type situation.
Yeah.
If you can get past that stress, you've clearly made this algorithm for yourself of this is how you get it done. I work my ass off doing this. It's every single day. You have to build a structure to make you survive through it. And you have to sometimes we hear a lot about in this industry of like directors like Joss Whedon, who Joss Whedon got in trouble. Which I'm not saying that he's a good guy or I'm defending him at all because some things that came out about him about how he treats his sets. But he's a hostile worker. meaning that he'll like bully his people into submission. Um,
Wow.
the Shining is a good example of that, where while they were making it, Shelley Duvall went crazy because the director so badly wanted her to have the reaction of fear and torment and everything that he made sure that no one looked at her on set, that she was like neglected or emotionally abused the whole time, because he knew that that would then represent good, that would come out good on screen, and it kind of sucks, but
So I actually, before I even knew I wanted to get into filming and like production and stuff like that, I watched Land of the Lost with like Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I saw that movie in 4D. Yeah,
What?
4D.
Oh my god. I love that movie.
It's so funny. He gets bit by the mosquito and is the biggest
Land of
the
Well, basically that was one of the only movies I've watched behind the scenes up until recently. I've been watching a lot more. But Chaka, that little monkey thing, they treat that guy like shit. Like, I watched that and I was like, why are they being so mean to him? Like, he's doing this behind the scenes thing because they need that for the film, and he's being goofy with people, and they're just all like saying mean stuff to him, but trying to like passive aggressive.
Yeah, where it's it's like a method acting thing where if you keep it live, or you're trying to keep that same energy. If some like horror directors will make people listen to like, some horror directors will make people the whole entire cast and set before they start of 15 minutes of screaming, or like you just hear this this creepy tone in the movie Sinister. There is a sound that plays whenever they play the music, which is just like, it sounds like real being played, and it's just this repetitive droning noise. The director would make Ethan Hawke and all the other cast members listen to that for 10 minutes before they start any set, just to get them in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good idea. I definitely think that I would do that to my cast and crew, where I'm like, this is where I need you guys. I could never morally get to the point where I would like have to bully someone into submission to get that type of role. I'm planning a short film that we've talked about it before, you and I, about, and just about horror. It's gonna be horror related, but I've decided that how I'm going to direct it is I want to meet with these people who are going to be my actors, and I want to sit down and write it with them, because I do want to make a film that my actors care about, so then I can make characters that my actors care about, instead of being like, okay, Nicole, you are going to play, this is hypothetical, but it'd be like, Nicole, I want you to play a 6'5" in WNBA basketball player. No, I would want you to do something. I would sit down with you, and I would want to talk through and make a character that you would want to play, who you would care about, and you would care about the well-being. Because say I had you on a movie, and your character's fighting for your life, I would want you as an actor to fight for that character's life and actually care, instead of just being like the Tom Cruise method, where you walk on the set because you're Tom Cruise, you get paid millions because you're Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Dude, and I bet they charge an arm and a leg to have him on sets.
Yeah.
Was it Clint Eastwood too, right? Isn't he like
I've told you about like the whole thing with Clint Eastwood. It's he's done so much. He's created this whole industry. And have you seen his new movies, like his movies that he's been making recently?
No.
Like Mule is a good movie. It's a really, really good movie. But back in the day, just westerns in general,
yeah,
you'd be able to watch. You can pull any of them up. It's like Clint Eastwood is the big text.
Yep.
And then it's Desperado, and it's like, oh, this Clint Eastwood movie is about this. To where it was more going to the movies to see Clint Eastwood. To where you'd go to the theaters and like, let's go see this movie. It's like, what's it called? I don't know. Clint Eastwood's in it.
That's how Tom Cruise ended up.
Yeah.
Which that was just Tom Cruise.
Or like Mark Wahlberg, too.
Oh, yeah.
He's in everything. The Rock.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Kevin Hart.
Hart, Skyscraper.
They all hit their points, though, and then it kind of dwindles.
Yeah. Well, it's like Nicolas Cage was for a long time, National Treasure. And he's kind of kind of coasted down.
Or Brendan Fraser was
Brendan
really...
Fraser. We've talked about Brendan Fraser
Yes.
on the pod. I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast, but just in general about how sad that is. How I think
But
everyone...
he is reintegrating, isn't he now?
Yes, he's coming back, which I'm very glad.
Me too. I'm excited.
I think everyone in general needs to like send Brendan Fraser a tweet, be like, "We appreciate you.
We love you, man.
We love you. I hope you're doing
Thanks for
okay."
being in a third Mommy movie or it'd been a shit show.
Yeah, thank you for breaking your back and getting out of Hollywood, being kicked to the curb.
Oh.
Yeah,
I know that's what happened, but...
Yeah, it's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
On the Nicolas Cage thing, Nicolas Cage has been recently making some horror movies. He was in the one I think you would really enjoy. It's a psychedelic trip. I know Ian. This is an Ian movie. I mean, capital I, Ian, capital M movie. It's called Mandy. It's about heavy metal.
Oh.
It's just heavy metal. Where Nicolas Cage plays his character who his wife is murdered. And it's this drug-filled, like, heavy metal inspired purple movie where he gets a giant axe and he's just going after the people who wronged him.
Oh, wow.
It's such a good movie. It's so metal. And there's another one coming out with him called Pig, which is he plays a woodsman, like a woodsy guy, and these people kill his pig. It's like John Wick, but a pig. It's crazy. It's looking good.
Kills his pig, so he kills them.
I think people like that would be so fun to like work with.
I mean, but you never know their personality for sure until you work with them.
Yeah, I know that. Back to like even Mike Flanagan, I know that these people who are in his movies love working for him, love working with him.
It's good.
Yeah, there's a thing on his Wikipedia page that it'll give everyone he's worked for, and you'll see all of his it's just a spreadsheet of all of the projects he's ever made and the people who work for him. For the most part, he's worked with all the same people. And it's not like where they're contracted; they just love working together.
Mm-hmm. He does good work.
Yeah, Karen Gillian, is that her name? Ellen Gillian. I think I said her name earlier. She played Nebula in the Marvel movies.
In the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. She was an Oculus, and it's because of him that she really made it into American movies. Because before that, she was an actor before. She was in Doctor Who, which everyone knows Doctor Who is just a big property. But her first like American film was Oculus, and she will talk on podcasts and interviews about working with him, about how thankful she is to have worked with him, and how she would love to do it again. And I think that just tells a type of person that Mike Flanagan is. He creates these families. He's like literally married to one of the actresses, Kate Siegel, who's in all of that. They're married and they have kids, and they work together, and they love working together, and they'll always work with each other. So you can find a lot of his work on Netflix.
Yeah.
He really lives on Netflix with his TV shows. If you have not seen Midnight Mass and you have Netflix, I recommend watching it. Watch the first episode and think about it. It is really, really good. It's not even like it's not a ghost or anything. It's something bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And it takes place on a small island and is all about just religion and small town values and just small town community in general. And it's so good. It is really, really good. For the future of Mike Flanagan, he recently bought the rights for some Edgar Allan Poe like stories. So I hope he makes something good with that.
Yeah, that guy.
I think that if Mike Flanagan was to get his hands on that, I think it'll be good. There's a lot more to come. I've always thought of Mike Flanagan the type of dude you could DM on Instagram being like, hey, you're really good, you're really cool. And he'll send you one back being like, thank you, I appreciate it. He doesn't seem cut off like by the Hollywood standard of like, I would never even try like emailing or messaging like Elijah Wood or anybody.
I feel like actors get more of the publicity than the directors or anyone who's in the background, which that's kind of what I enjoy. Like
I enjoy that too, where it's like
they could still walk around on the streets and not, have to always worry about someone going, "Oh my God, you're Hugh." I mean, obviously, if you're Steven Spielberg or Stephen King,
Michael Bay.
I'm not even kidding. If I saw Stephen King or even Steven Spielberg on the street, I probably wouldn't even know it was them right off the bat.
Oh, I definitely would. Being a horror fan,
like I know what they look like.
I would 100% be like, "Oh, that's Stephen King." I'm gonna walk over there and be like, "I'm glad you got hit by that van. You have changed my life."
Well, maybe if I was in Hollywood or somewhere I know they were, but if I just randomly saw someone here, or they were just walking around, it probably wouldn't.
Like Weird Al Yankovic in Wichita. I've seen him multiple times in Wichita. That dude just loves Wichita.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I love that dude. He's funny as hell.
He plays a lot in Wichita, and he really enjoys the city.
But yeah, like that guy, like Mike, could just walk around anywhere, and at least outside of Hollywood, and not a whole lot of people would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's Mike Flanagan."
Mike Flanagan, yeah.
Yeah, like I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. I really need to start getting into more of this stuff.
And outside of that, of just like fame, it's just like being a director in general. I understand that. I see both sides of it. I wish that directors would get more like notice, because I would hope that I would get more notice. Mike Flanagan's definitely built himself a career in horror and in media, but it's like Blumhouse does this a lot, where they make a bunch of movies, like the first Ouija movie, Sinister, all these different types of like just turnkey horror movies that just a grind factory just pumping them out. And it's like, oh, horror movie. But then the directors get nothing.
They're kind of the same thing.
Yeah, but then like the directors get nothing out of it. Like Truth or Dare was with Lucy Hale from Pretty Little Liars. And it's like, that drove people to go see the movie. But then it's like the director side of it. That director had to make something for her. It's like the people that get forgotten behind making horror just movies, and specifically horror movies. I feel like that is a media where horror movies make so much money each year because people go and see them. But then at the end of the day, it's so forgotten, because it's like, if Tom Cruise was in a horror movie, everyone would know what it is. World of Worlds, that movie. Yeah. Starring Tom Cruise. Whereas
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Whereas it's a forgotten medium where it's just like you get shoved underneath the table, and hey, we like what you did. Oh, another one's coming out next month. Forget that movie. Where it's sadly horror movies a lot of time, which I kind of want to do this podcast and keep doing this podcast to keep these things alive and keep older movies that haven't necessarily made the nostalgia of like the Jaws, The Thing, The Exorcist, that have just made history that everyone knows. Like, oh, Friday the 13th movie, everyone knows it. Like Jason Voorhees, but like make these movies that don't get a lot of recognition and keep them alive, because I think they're important. I love horror because you can tell a story and you can do more things, not in a way that it's like people need to be worried, but I like horror movies because you can do whatever you want. I don't like these movies, but rape revenge is a thing where it's you can tell a story about experiences that can live with someone forever, just these terrible experiences, but you can use horror as a way to make it and make people pay in the end. And where you're like, you can make it easier to live and care about a character, of like if something happens to somebody, or it's like just like serial killer movies or slasher movies. Yeah. Where it's like Hush that he made, where his wife played a deaf woman and the dude was trying to kill her. It was a lot like The Strangers, even that movie. Yeah. Where like in horror movies you can I think you root for the person more because you're watching them survive. You're not watching like Hallmark or the cookie cutter love movies where you're like, oh, I hope they get together. No, you're like, I hope this bitch doesn't. They always get
together in Hallmark, okay? Yeah,
it's like, I hope this bitch doesn't die. Where it's like,
you never know.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, and sometimes it happens bad. Uh-huh. And I think I like horror movies the best is because you can tell a compelling story, and you can have a realistic ending. You don't need the hero's ending. It can be satirical ending where it's like everyone dies.
Like Hereditary, like no one survives.
Yeah, where it's like
sorry.
no, oh yeah, where it's like Hereditary. That's not a happy ending. Midsummer for the same thing. That is not a happy ending.
I still need to see that.
Yeah, it ends with a
just
smile,
don't
but
ever want
it's
to
not
watch
a
it
happy
by
one.
myself.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies. I've always been around horror movies, and I know like with my girlfriend, I've been having to recently get her to watch horror movies.
For me, it's like a hot bathtub that I have to put my toe in, you know, and kind of just ease into
I've
it.
just been, it's my relaxed time of kind of grounds me of, hey, at least I ain't that bad. At least I ain't being hunted
Wow.
down. Yeah, it sucks.
I ain't this bad. I'm not going through this. Thank God.
Yep, I just love the genre so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
directors like this, you know, who really know how to do it.
Who build worlds like Haunting a Hill House that even though I've seen it 5 times.
Isn't that a crazy thought? They build worlds.
You create worlds. It is, and you're able to take a thought in your mind or something that you care about, and you can make people see things from a different point of view. Like it wasn't even necessarily about it, but when George A. Romero made Night of the Living Dead, the main character was a black man, and at the end of it, he gets shot by the police. And he's like, I wasn't necessarily making that, but I'm glad that I was able to bring attention to police brutality and like just these black traumas. And you're not in a way where you're like automatically in your brain like, well, actually, statistically, white people get shot too. You're able to look at them like, man, I liked that character. Man, why'd he have to die? With movies in general, you're able to get these ideas across that people, for the most part, unless you're hitting it on the nose, which I don't like those movies, but you're able to get people to see a different perspective of things. In Midnight Mass, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. There's a character who's Muslim. It's Sheriff Hassan, played by Raul Cooley.
Oh, I like him.
Yeah, he's very good. He was in iZombie and some other things. iZombie's really good. People need to watch iZombie.
I love that show.
But in the show, he talks about being a police officer post 9/11. He watched the towers come down, and he was like, this is my country. I want to protect it. Mm-hmm. And there's a cool documentary about it, but he talks about he rose to the rank of detective and all the way in further up. And he one time made a comment to the office being like, no, I don't like this idea, or I need to bring down crooked cops. And they demoted him so far because they're like, oh no, he's a sleeper agent. This is this terrorist wanting to become a cop so he knows all the secrets so he can blow up more buildings. It's just how stupid it is and how sad it is to be a Muslim post 9/11 in a world that we're so scared of Muslims.
Yeah.
You're able to talk about that, and they can literally tell you that, and not necessarily force feed you that, but you're able to see something like that. And
I feel like now though with our generation,
it's the woke culture.
We're not like our parents, you know, where they were terrified of like Muslims and things like that. Like we're more like open-minded.
Yeah, or it's like not all of us, because everyone's built on different views and everything.
True, yeah.
And it's like not saying everybody, but like even to like our grandparents' time of segregation era, where it's like how we can laughably look, we were like, that is so fucking dumb that people treat each other differently because of the color of their skin. When it's just and that's just the subject of being born later and throughout time, of it's still happening now more and more. We've a whole new wave of Me Too movement and other things. We're at a time where we're able to talk about these issues, especially like Black Lives Matter is a big one. Mm-hmm. And you're able to make horror movies like Candyman, isn't
Get Out like
Get Out?
that?
Get Out is the show pony of racism in America, and it's a great movie. And anybody can watch Get Out, no matter what your idea is, but you can see it. And not saying that it's that bad, but in movies, you're able to give somebody a situation, and you can make it hyper realistic, where it's like racism, and like in Get Out, but not how it's realistic of these rich white people literally putting their brains inside black a black person's brain so they can live the black experience. But you can use that as a metaphor for racism and just talk about how you can call out both sides of racism just doesn't come from the Confederate flag owned hat, redneck, white trash dudes who will lynch somebody. It comes from the people who are like white collar, liberal of nature, democratic side people where it's like racism comes from both sides. You're able to talk about that instead of it's being represented solely by the extremists like in the Purge movies, which I enjoy. I just enjoy watching a lot of people die. I don't mean that in a way to like make
obviously
people,
you wouldn't want to see that in real life.
yeah, which that's why
another thing though, is
it's
that
like you're able to see things
that you would never get
you
to
don't
experience.
want to experience, where it's like war movies of going to see like Lone Survivor of I'm glad I'm able to see that, but I'm glad that I never have to be there.
Exactly.
Where it's like just stuff like that you're able to see.
You read all this stuff in history and then it gets brought to life on film or just stories, you know. So it's like, holy shit, this is what I would have went through if I had to do this stuff, or, you know, if I was in this world, you know, it's crazy.
That's the best. I think that's the reason why, when it comes down to it, why I wanted to be a filmmaker. Is that I can make comments about things and I can tell a story that has these ideas in it and make it in a way that people will like it and watch it. I can take my dream, my vision, and produce it and have someone else be like, that was good. I got joy out of something that you made. I think that's the number one reason why I want to do it. It's not money. It's truly not money. If it was, I wouldn't be sitting here making a podcast. I wouldn't make any money or anything. I just want to be able to tell a story. I want to have a voice.
I get you.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. I did want to change things up. Like I said, I don't want it to always be about horror movies and just like talking about a movie that we watch. I want to have these discussions because I think we can learn a lot and just talk a lot about things through a discussion instead of just talking about like The Gallows or Malignant.
And I like this too because it also gives me a chance to watch some movies from, you know, like after learning about the director, now I can watch these shows and be like, okay, now I know like why he did certain things, you know, I'll feel a bit differently about them.
It's important to understand where people are coming from with making movies. And I think I'm glad that we're going to splash in a little bit of these here and there, just kind of take a break from watching the movie because I don't want to be in the same thing. I know one of the times, and I would love to have you back on it, is I want to just talk with everybody and make like our monster, where we're just going to talk about like, if I had to picture a horror movie monster, it'd be like a big bat with razor claws, and we're just going to talk about that. I think that'd be a fun little episode. Kind of give us a little break from have fun, laugh, instead of like I would really study up for, like sometimes this feels like it can be a test where I'm like, I hope you guys are paying attention to the movie we're watching because we're about to talk about it. Rather just kind of give you guys something, like talk at you guys so you can just listen and get a perspective, or we can just engage in conversation that way.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we have to look forward to on this podcast is just different, besides our regular movies, which I think next week we will do a movie because I enjoy watching them.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to do a back and forth of just, we'll watch a movie, talk about it, and then we'll have a discussion about something. I think that's the best thing we can do.
That'd be great.
Thank you for everyone for listening. You can, wherever you listen to this on, I would enjoy it if you gave a 5-star review and a comment. Maybe tell a friend about it. And I know it's kind of shitty, but come on, tell a friend.
We enjoy it. We love talking, and
the more exposure it gets, the better it can be. And I think it'll help me out, make me feel like this isn't really like for nothing.
Yeah, and we're also learning as well. So if there's things that you suggest that, you know, would help and make it better in your eyes, we can incorporate that.
Because I do check the analytics on this. I actually do take the time. I don't just post it and walk away. I do see that we do have a pretty much 50-50 split. It's not a whole lot of people. It's like 30 people total.
Hey.
But it's like 15 girls, 15 dudes listening, so that's pretty cool. Like the more you guys like, comment, subscribe, give feedback, the better I can gear it towards what you'd want to listen to. I don't want my whole thing with this podcast is I don't want people to have to watch something that they wouldn't enjoy. And I wouldn't want you guys to listen to something you wouldn't enjoy. So just give me feedback and we'll make it better. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
guys.